What's up, YouTube? It's Rico here, CEO of SourceFind Asia, host of the Made in China podcast, and the host of the SourceFind Asia YouTube channel. Back with another one, back with a on the factory floor video, talking about a factory that helps us make these LED balls for Cirque du Soleil.
So it's been 100 days since I popped out with the gang, yeah. I don't need nobody when I got you in my hand, yeah. They gon' talk about it, but they do not understand, yeah. I don't need nobody, I just need to do my plan, yeah. So it's been 100 days since I popped out with the gang, yeah. I don't need nobody when I got you in my hand, yeah. They gon' talk about it, but they do not understand, yeah. I don't need nobody, I just need to do my plan, yeah. You ain't gonna
Okay, so if you haven't watched one of our On the Factory Floors, we should have at this stage about 4 up on the channel, so definitely check those out. This is a series where we either interviewed Chinese factory owners or we go to factories and do a full inspection, like a factory audit, and give a review. I give my little review of the quality of the factory at the end. Before we get started, there's going to be a quick montage of the factory space, and I want you to pay attention to the process of this factory. This is a little bit different. This is an assembly house. It's not a full-scale factory, and I'll explain a little bit later what that means. Something that most people probably wouldn't notice unless you've been to a lot of factories before. An assembly house, an assembly space, is basically a factory that takes different components and puts them together into the final product, right? Sometimes they're just factories that are just simply an assembly house and they don't do anything else. There's other factories where they have their assembly house in one location, and then they have the actual parts that are made in different locations. So in this situation, these guys focus on LED products, and the actual electronic component, the PCB boards, are made in Shenzhen at another location, and then the plastic injection molded products. So for example, with the LED balls, in this specific video, they were making aroma diffusers. The PCB boards are made in a factory up north, and then the injection molded products were made in a factory close to Shenzhen, but closer to Dongguan. So they own both factories. Sometimes factories have a partnership with both. And there's nothing wrong with working with an assembly house. You just want to make sure that you understand where the actual individual pieces are being made and who's responsible for that. Like, so if they don't own those factories, they might blame defects on the other supplier, right? And that's an issue. If they own those factories, then it's going to be easier to deal with defects as you move forward. So this is a very, very small assembly house, and typically an assembly house is going to be around this size because they don't have to store large machinery, right? Like, they're just taking the two parts and putting them together. So if you look at the video, the first part of this factory was the offices. So they had a couple of different offices, mainly for the sales staff, accounting, that kind of stuff. And then you have the boss's office, And then moving on from there, there was a little display room where they have all these different products that they make. So these guys make, again, LED products, so it's a very wide range. As long as it's something that is has a plastic injection molding, has LED lights involved, they can make it. And then the next step is the actual assembly line. So if you look at the assembly line, I've talked about this multiple times on the factory floor videos, you're looking to see if there's a clear step to each part of the assembly. So as you can see, they take the PC boards and the actual housing for the PC board, and it's put into an SMT placement system, so a surface mounted technology placement system. And from there, they take that, and there's each step of the process as they make the full aroma diffuser, and you could see that in the videos that we made. From there, there is the QC process. So they're gonna inspect the final product, and then they put it into a general carton before they put it into the final packaging. So in this video, they weren't putting the final packaging because they were still doing the mass production. So that would be the last step of the process. Also, they were not making the LED balls that we make with Cirque du Soleil because, you know, this was just the production that they were doing right now, even though we have an order with them. But again, with these LED balls, it's still the same process, right? So like this housing, this is plastic that's been injection molded at their facility in Shenzhen. And then the logo is also printed at the facility. And then inside here is a PCB board that was produced up north. They shipped them to the final place. It gets put into the SMT placement system. And then after that, like I could literally take this out right now, but I'd be breaking the ball. After that, the last step of the production is them actually stamping this into the ball and gluing this area. And then they put it in the final packaging. And this is how the final packaging looks. It gets stamped on top. And then this is how it gets shipped in the master carton to the final client. They also have a separate sleeve that was produced at their packaging factory, and these were specific specs that we discussed with Cirque du Soleil. So, and another part of it is for safety and just quality concerns. You don't want to have the product, if it's an LED product or electronic product, you have to have some sort of seal to show that it hasn't been used. So the first step, if you want to get this product to actually light up like the way it's lighting up right now, is you have to actually pull this out first, and then that's how it works. So if we were to send this to the client without this, then they'd know that either one, the balls were used, or two, they weren't produced properly. So that's something to look out for. How do I rate this assembly house? I'd say in terms of cleanliness, not the best. It's always been kind of like that, but they're very professional and they know their stuff. So we've never had any real major issues with them defects wise, and that's something that we offset at the beginning because we had this discussion with them before we started our first production with them. Is like, what is your defect rate, right? And this is a very, very important question for you to ask your factory, like what is the defect rate of this product? And they were all forthright with us, and then that means that we go back to the client and say, hey, there's going to be X amount defect rate. You know, are you willing to order extra units? Or we go back to the factory and negotiate a deal where they produce extra units to offset the defect rate of the previous ones. And we've done multiple orders with them, so pretty happy with them. I'd give them, I'd say 3.5 out of 5, just because of the cleanliness aspect to the factory. It's a very close 4, but I've discussed that with them. Is like I want them to sort of organize their factory floor a little bit more, and maybe to have a slightly more extensive sort of QC system. But overall, we're very happy with the factory, and yeah, 3.5 Hong balls out of 5. All right, guys, so thanks for watching another On the Factory Floor. You check out the playlist. Like I said, we probably have 4 or 5 videos up right now. And like, comment, subscribe. Now check you out next week.
Do my plan, yeah.